This is Ron Paul with your weekly update for Monday, October 5th. The U.S. regime change policy for Syria has been a catastrophe. More than 200,000 killed and an entire country reduced to rubble, at least partly because President Obama decided that Assad has lost his legitimacy. How is it that the president of a country 6,000 miles away has the authority to decide whether another leader belongs in office or not? At least 3 years of U.S. efforts to train rebels to overthrow the Syrian government has produced, as General Lloyd Austin, commander of U.S. Central Command, testified last month, 4 or 5 trained and vetted moderates in Syria. The $500 million appropriated for this purpose has disappeared. The neocon solution to this failure is to overthrow Assad and degrade and destroy ISIS, is to increase the bombing and lead a ground invasion of Syria. The confusion policy of fighting Assad and also fighting his enemies does not seem to bother the neocons. They want us to forget all about their recent failures in Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and to try the same failed strategy one more time. But something dramatic happened last week. Russian President Vladimir Putin delivered a speech at the United Nations criticizing the U.S. policy of partnering with one set of extremists, al-Qaeda and its allies, to attack both ISIS and Assad. Do you realize now what you have done? Asked Putin. Shortly after Putin's UN speech, he requested and was granted authority from the Russian parliament to use force in Syria in response to the Syrian government's request for assistance against the rebels. Russian fighters and bombers began flying sorties over Syria's almost immediately. In less than a week of Russian bombing, considerable damage appears to have been done to both ISIS and to al-Qaeda affiliates, some of which are considered allies by the U.S. and were actually trained by the CIA. It may be tempting to cheer Russian military action in Syria, as it seems ISIS is finally suffering some considerable losses. All of a sudden, what looked to be an inevitable ISIS takeover of Syria once Assad was overthrown seems far less likely with the Russians on the scene. But I cannot cheer the bombs, whether they are Russian bombs or U.S. bombs or French or British bombs. I do not believe a terrorist group created by foreign intervention in the region will be solved by more foreign intervention in the region. Bombs represent a total failure of policy. They destroy a country's economy and infrastructure. I wish the American people would finally demand that their government end its destructive policy of trying to change any regime that does not bow to Washington's demands. I wish Congress respected our Constitution enough to demand that the President seek a declaration of war before attacking any country. I wish President Bush and his neocon advisors had never decided to overthrow the Syrian government. I wish President Obama had fired the neocons who led him from one foolish intervention to another. I wish the CIA had not trained rebels to fight alongside al-Qaeda in Syria. I wish we would reject the shrill cries of the warmongers. I wish the U.S. media was more than just a propaganda arm of the U.S. government. I am not thrilled that Russia is bombing Syria. I wish nobody was bombing Syria. Thanks for calling this update. A new update is placed on this number, 888-322-1414, every Sunday. The written text can be found on my Ron Paul Institute website at www.ronpaulinstitute.org and on my Facebook page. Thanks for calling.